If they took Odessa, then the whole of the coastline would be theirs. So they don't want to give up Kherson without a fight. Well, I think really it's been a week of false flags, information ops, and provocation, and we've seen this before from Russia. So if we really seriously believe that Ukraine would use a dirty bomb to write a suicide note by causing a provocation, when that would be deemed by Russia to be a nuclear first strike, as the Russian ambassador to the UN has said, then that's patently absurd, and that's why it's been called out as a false flag operation by the UK, the US, and France. The second one, where we've seen a similar false flag, which has also been called out by Zelensky in the West, is this notion that Ukraine would demolish the Kakhova hydroelectric power station, and thereby impede the movement of their own forces. Both of those are absurd provocations, but we've seen this before. So it happened prior to the 24th of February with the notion that 150,000 troops on the border, there could be nothing but a provocation. And there is an old Soviet refrain that went in 1938. Why are there so many troops in case of a provocation? What if there is no provocation? How could there not be with so many troops? So they are setting the agenda for an escalation if they wish to do so. And in the second part of this is the information ops. So rather like Lawrence of Arabia, they're trying to arrange the minds of the enemy, then of their own nation supporting them, then of the minds of the enemy nations waiting the verdict, and of the neutrals looking on, circle upon circle. That is what they are trying to do. It's part of this notion of scaring people by the nuclear extortion to try and get those who are moralists, who see this as aberrant, which it would be, to try and engage in diplomacy and thereby cement the gains which Russia has had. Realists would say that all wars end, but now is not the time. And strategists would like me would say that there can only be diplomacy after Ukrainian victory.
The worry is that Putin and those around him are becoming desperate with the failure to make significant progress on the ground in Ukraine. Now, Kherson is now such an important theatre within the theatre of war, isn't it? How do you read what's going on there?
Well, it's difficult to tell. I think the momentum has slowed there from the Ukrainian perspective. And it's unclear at the moment if there is a disinformation again from the Russians about a withdrawal, or whether they're going to, because Sorokin is there now in charge, to reinforce that. Because essentially in their grand strategic objective, which is still to regain lost territory and spheres of influence, and because things can, go one way and the other in war, which is a very complex business, ultimately they would still like to take Odessa. If they took Odessa, then the whole of the coastline would be theirs. So they don't want to give up Kherson without a fight. And if they could use it as a springboard for the future, they would do so. Now, the notion of that happening at the moment is minimal, but that's ultimately what I think Sorokin would like to do. It's not in the realms of the possible at the moment. So we would still see Ukraine recapturing Kherson, but if there is a humanitarian disaster with the breaching of significant dams, which would release 18 million cubic meters of water and flood and probably kill lots of people, that would be a different issue. And that's why that's been called out by Zelensky and the international community as something which would be akin to a WMD strike by Putin. And of course, partly that information space is to maintain the support which Zelensky and the Ukrainians need.